Well, we've seen what the governor said, and we've seen the calls that have been made. What's your take on reopening the borders, especially now that we can categorically state that there is hunger in the land?
Well, I think the first thing to say, I think it's you can't counter, is the fact that border closure is an unusual step to take, and so we have to be very careful in governance. The welfare of the people is what should be of concern to those who are in leadership position. But sometimes in this environment, we don't seem to show that really we're that concerned. I think that's very important. By the time you close the border, you change the life pattern of those near the border, those people who have interacted, across the border. Businesses that built up based on the fact that, they transact across the border. So you do it, and it's wrong. And when you look at when we have we're talking about building economic space and so on and so forth. You want to remove barriers, so you have ECOWAS. ECOWAS is meant to remove barriers, to movement of people and goods and services. You want to create large markets and places. You want to encourage, people where they have expertise, economies of scale, to be developed, and give some cost benefits to all concerned. And so you want to do that. And you do that because people can now socialize. So if, for instance, Nigerians can go to, say, across to the Republic, to get certain things. And then they have expertise in that area. We expect that what the economies of scale and so on, and what benefits they have would also impact on us here in Nigeria. So border closure, is not something that we should just take whimsically. It's not something that we should just do. It's something that we really have to be very careful, make sure that our objectives in doing that is very clear, and then we set timelines as to what needed to be done. So, but border closures is not the way to go. So, and when you see problems we're having in our environment, the problems we have lately is because of the fearful related to the strength of the naira. So people look at it, and then people are trying to pass the buck and pass the blame and so on and so forth. This is were there before, and we didn't have any crisis. So if we're having those crises, we should try and situate it properly. That's what is happening.
Yeah. Let me also, get your thoughts. Do you think that the Nigerian government has been able to continue to justify to itself the gains of border closure? I remember the former administration, found reasons here and there to justify, the closure of the border. They claimed that rice was now in, massive production of rice, had occurred or started across northern Nigeria and in other parts of the country. But till date, we're in 2024, would you say that they still have gains that they can point to as the benefits of the border closure over time that has made them keep it that way?
Well, sometimes we close borders because we think that we want to stop certain economic activities. So we want to, so for instance, like you did say in your presentation, so we produce some rice and we think that it's being small good, or we have petroleum products and we think it's being small good, and then put up borders and so on and so forth. That's why economists will tell you that it's better to allow the market, to take up that challenge. Administratively, it's tough to do. By the time you start shutting down borders and so on and so forth, you create opportunity for people for rent seeking. So the custom guys will go to town, and then it becomes costlier. Goods will be devised, for those things to move and so on, and it's very difficult to stop. And really, when you were talking about, I would think of going beyond Nigeria, and I think I said, the subcontinent, for instance, like I said earlier on. Then you're concerned because you want development to spread all through the place. And so by the time you begin to do this, you put yourself in a corner, and then the benefits that would accrue to you by the fact that you have a larger space to transact, you would not get it. So whatever benefits has been there, I think they've been overtaken with time. I can't even remember why the borders were shut in the first place. Sometimes we have elections and we shut borders. Okay, so we know because we have elections, and we don't want confusion. We want to make sure that both inflation and so on and so forth is not. We don't encourage. We don't enable that. But when you don't have that and you start shutting borders because you don't want your products to go to go across the border. Like I said earlier on, you just create opportunity for people to begin to find ways and means to do that. There are people who have built their lives, based on such businesses, such transactions. We must be conscious of that fact as we take decisions. Because you do that, you upset, the pattern which they built over the years.
All right, I'd like us to look at the African Continental Free Trade Agreement and how Nigeria may have reneged in its treaty. Obviously, the borders are supposed to be open to allow free movement and, of course, free trade. But this might have been affected because of the closure of our borders. What impact do you think this would have on neighboring countries? I mean, recently we also saw that some goods were seized right before the president yesterday made a statement that those goods should be released back to the owners as long as they're going to sell them in Nigeria and not take them to Cotonou or wherever. We're starting to see smuggling in little places because people just need to ensure that they're able to take food from point A to point B. What do you think this would mean, especially looking at the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement and, of course, the attitude and actions of people in moving goods and items, if possibly smuggling them?
Let me tell you, I thought that I gave President full marks, for asking for the food items to be released. What would have happened eventually is that those food items will be kept here, they will rot, and waste, and so on, and then even some will be taken away. Like I said earlier on, I don't see any benefit, in that rest. I don't know why Nigeria, we don't seem to get our acts right. We don't seem, I would seem to show a bit of confusion, by the way we are, particularly when it comes to continental issues. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement and so on and so forth, we championed it. And when it came to signing the agreement, and we reneged, we didn't sign. I think maybe we just signed not too long ago. And so, but that shouldn't be the case. Nigeria should be the largest economy in Africa. And then, like I said earlier on, we should be conscious of the fact that we have a responsibility, whether we like it or not, to pull the other countries within the sub-region, but put them up, so that we all have development across board. So this is very important. It's a challenge that's thrust on us by the fact of our position in the continent, the size of our economy in the continent, our population, and so on and so forth. And if we're not doing what we should do, because we are wrong-sighted, we are not holding the right end of the stick, and we're doing things that we shouldn't do. Everybody suffers because of that. So that consciousness has to be there. Nigeria must know trying to restrain things, control things, and stop them from going across the border has consequences. Sometimes, in fact, they have actual benefits. That's what you can say. One can say categorically. But people, like I said earlier on, people have lived a part in their lives. And then you can imagine if you're living on the border and you've transacted freely, and suddenly the border is shut. And then sometimes it's not going to be open for the next. What confusion, what that's going to affect your lifestyle, affect what you've done before, affect everything about you. And you cause hardship, you cause pain on people. And then we should be very careful when we take such decisions. We must ask ourselves, what is it we are trying to get? Sometimes you get the feeling that we don't go through that route. We don't say, look, what is this? What are we trying to get? And then is this the right strategy? Is it the right approach, to achieve what are there alternative ways that this could be done? So I think we should begin to do that. And sometimes we take policy decisions and we go to sleep. So as soon as I say the whole thing is forgotten. So nobody knows what is happening. If you take this food lifting of food ban and so on and so forth, if you ask me as an economist, I can't remember I can't recall when that ban was put in place. And it was put by the immediate past regime. And they asked me why I can't. I know what we have to do with, foods are being exported. I mean, I saw the United States governor stopping the food items from going outside the state and saying that they should go back and sell it in the state. thought that was madness. What if there's no market for those goods to be sold in the states? What if those economic agents in the states? What harm is it doing to them? And what harm is it doing to the rest of Nigeria? So you come, that they create scarcity everywhere. So Nigeria should be the space that should be of concern to all managers of this economy. And when you see such decisions being taken, and you just ask yourself, you can't help asking yourself and say, look, where is this coming from? What sort of logic is driving this decision?
Yeah. Well, I mean, these policies, of course, have been, criticized for a long time. The government, of course, continues to find ways to defend them. But, over time, since, of course, the border closure and other policies, you would expect that there's been other steps that have been taken to maybe curb smuggling, to improve on production of, agricultural production in the country and other things. Do you see that any of it has improved? Do you see that the Nigerian government, if it eventually decides to open the borders after 10 years, will be able to beat its chest and say, in that time that the borders were closed, we achieved this, with curbing smuggling? If you remember a couple of, weeks ago, there was a report by Fisayo Shoyombo on a very popular alleged smuggler in the country that was, of course, conniving with the Nigerian Customs Service and the likes, allegedly. So what would we be able to say that we've achieved in that time? Will it be agricultural production? Will it be, better protection of our borders?
I just said to you that, sometimes when we take such decisions, the goals, the objectives are not clearly stated. Like I said earlier on, the commonest one that comes to mind is the fact you say to yourself, we think these things are being exported and so on, and customs are not being paid and so on. So that's not the way to go. If for instance, you feel that the border smuggling across the border and so on and so forth, this is leverage on technology, for instance. And if you feel that there's a bill frame, the charges are paid, tariffs are paid, and they don't hit the treasury and so on and so forth. You up your market, your game. You up your game. So you bring in technology. You find that we produce oil. Nobody knows can account for exactly what happens to the oil we produce. But there are countries in this world where you can't touch an ounce of the oil, and that you can't even try it because there's an alarm. So why can't we? So there are some things we should do. So like I said, if the border has been closed, in fact, for me, it's something that has receded in my consciousness. If the border has been closed for that long, and I've said to myself, I can only just think in general terms, what must have been the cause, the reason why these borders were closed. And I said also in economic management, again, let me repeat, it's not the way to go. So you're trying to create a larger market. You go to Europe, you have their market and so on. Sub-region, have ECOWAS and sub-region, because there are advantages in doing so. So if you allow a larger space and you allow people to specialize in certain areas because they have certain endowments and so on, then everybody benefits from it because as they leverage on those endowments which they have, and then they produce in a way that is cheaper for everybody, then that should impact on price level. That should impact on the level of inflation within the sub-region, and that should impact on the overall quality of well-being of people in the business, which for me is the ultimate objective of being in government.
All right. I want to thank you so much, MD CEO, Big Consultancy Services, Boniface Chizea. Thank you so much for joining us this morning as we've taken a look at the call for the borders to be reopened. Thank you for your thoughts.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. God bless.
Okay. All right.